This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's going on, everybody? As we all know, mental health is a huge piece for me. And recently, as I become a better version of myself, I've decided that it's time for me to go to therapy because I understand how life can be a little overwhelming and we all need help navigating through the trenches of military service in and out of uniform. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, all you got to do is go to their site. Matter of fact, you can use my link right here. Answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or computer via phone call or video chat or messaging, however you feel most comfortable. It's the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You will be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your home. Visit betterhelp.com/meechspeaks and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
Always say something. A prize, motherfucker.
Leave me alone. Go out west. Give me your phone. Going out west.
What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of the Talking Crazy podcast. Now, before we get started with this podcast, head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Now, first things first, before I say anything, happy birthday, Marines. All right, 249 years in this illustrious organization. Let me rephrase that. 249 years of this illustrious organization just existing into the world. America may not need us, but they definitely want us. You know what I mean? 249 years of pure fucking excellence. So, pure honor, courage, and commitment. All right, like I can't stress that enough, man. Happy birthday to every Marine. I cannot thank y'all enough for just allowing me to serve beside y'all. I cannot thank y'all enough for allowing me into leadership positions. I cannot thank y'all enough. I cannot thank this organization enough for the fact that it allowed me to become the person that I am today. Experience things that I never thought that I would experience. Pull me out of Detroit and allow me to become the person that I am today. So I cannot, man, fuck. Happy birthday, Marines. Now, with that being said, as we go from November 10th right on into November 11th, happy Veterans Day. Now, I'm going to just say this because I don't know who need to hear it, but today ain't the day where you go to a restaurant to just get a free fucking meal. This ain't National Free Fucking Meal Day for anybody that served in the military. That's not how we about to play this, all right? I want you to call up a veteran, you know what I mean? And it ain't just somebody that's deployed. You know, it's somebody that's either in the military or who has been in the military. I want you to call them up, right? I want you to call them up and I want you to thank them for their fucking service. Even if they a shitbag. I just really want to just say that real quick, man. Even if they were a shitbag, I still want you to thank them for their service because guess what? They were able to pass the ASVAB. At some point, they were a qualified Marine. At some point, they were able to survive the transition to become a United States Marine or become somebody within their branch of service. So do me a favor and call up a veteran. You know, and if you're around a Vietnam veteran, do me a favor and go ahead and call them up. All right. Or go up to them, shake their hand, you know, because they didn't get that when they came home. All right. When they came home, they was spat on. When they came home, they were told to go away. When they came home, they were rejected. So this day just ain't just for National fucking Food Day. It's for those who have served, paid the ultimate sacrifice pieces of their life for us to be able to do the things that we do here in this country, say the things that we want to say in this country, and just to be able to have this overall lifestyle that we have within this country. So I don't know who needs to hear this, man, but please, man, like, thank a veteran. Happy Veterans Day. Now, speaking of veterans, all right, and I cannot stress this enough, do me a favor, check on your peoples. All right, check on your peoples. Last week was a rough week for a lot of people. All right, now depending on whatever your political party was or your political candidate, last week was a rough week. All right, emotions were at an all-time high. Matter of fact, it was actually a roller coaster of emotions. Okay, now if you know me, you know that I don't necessarily prescribe to either or. You know what I mean? Like I'm usually like a neutral party. I always will look at both sides of it before I actually make a decision. But for others, man, like I'm telling you right now, they are not doing good. You know what I mean? Like they are not doing good. And I cannot stress this enough. Check on your peoples. In fact, I remember yesterday I was listening to the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Now, for those who don't understand, like Steve Harvey has always been a big inspiration when it came down to podcasting for me, especially because I grew up listening to Steve Harvey. And I remember him saying something, you know, along the lines of, we've always been strong. We can get through this. We've gotten through worse. We are going to get through this and we're going to make it happen. And I was just sitting back like, bro, I'm so sick and tired of always having to be strong. You know what I mean? And although that message wasn't necessarily directed towards me, I looked at it and I was thinking to myself, like, dog, like there's some people right now that are sick and tired of being strong. You know what I mean? Now, I can't stress this enough, man. When I say check on your peoples, man, like I'm always saying, check on your peoples that you ain't talked to in a while. Check on your peoples that you talked to yesterday. Check on your peoples that you constantly bring your fucking problems to and they always figure it out. Check on your strong friends too, because despite popular belief, they going through it. And today's episode is all about being that strong friend. And yeah, you tired of being that strong friend. Let's go ahead and jump right to it. Now, what constitutes a strong friend? All right. I'm talking about that mental resilience. You know, this is probably somebody within your life that you constantly go to whenever you're having like a rough day or you need some shit that's figured out. More than likely, they're probably somebody within your family that everybody tends to go to. More than likely, they're probably somebody within the platoon that, like, even though there's chaos going on right now, everyone can always look at this person and they know for a fact that they're going to see them through. This person is usually held at a high pedestal. You know what I mean? This person is strong. But one thing that a lot of people have to understand about being strong or having this mental resiliency or having this mental toughness, although this is a skill, this was never something that was supposed to be constantly on all the time. You know what I mean? I'm going to just be completely honest with you. As somebody that is known as the strong friend, you know what I mean? Like within my family, within my platoon, within my company, within, you know, just in my life, I didn't ask to be strong. You know what I mean? Like I didn't ask to be strong. Strength was given to me as a byproduct of what happened. I asked for wisdom and I got fucking played. I asked for guidance and got let down. I asked for help and had to do it alone. I didn't ask to be strong. People played in my face. People betrayed me. People let me down. People found out that they weren't as real as they said they were, and it left me alone to have to figure out exactly what I needed to do. I never asked to be strong. And because of those circumstances, I gained that strength. And because I have this, how do you say, this love for everyone else, I ensure that it doesn't happen to everyone else. But if you ask me, I never asked to be strong. I asked to be loved. I asked to be mentored. And when those things weren't given to me, I had two choices. Either I fall to the wayside or I rise to the fucking occasion. And that's a lot of what most people that feel, you know, that are known as that strong friend, that's a lot of what they think. They never asked to be this. You know what I mean? They never wanted to be strong. There were things that they wanted that they did not get, so they just didn't give up. And the problem with being known as that strong friend is that there's a certain burden that sits on your shoulders and nobody else can see. You know what I mean? Like nobody else can see the burden. When you walk into a room, you're immediately bombarded with everybody else's problems. Matter of fact, as soon as you wake up, you're solving problems just as soon as the day starts. You know what I mean? You're solving them. You're providing advice. You're giving guidance. You're providing mentorship. And I know people will applaud you. Hell yeah, Marine. Hell yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Take care of your family. Take care of those Marines. Take care of the people around you. But nobody's taking care of you. Nobody's taking care of you. And you won't say it. You know what I mean? Like you won't say it because you don't want to put everybody around you into a panic. And sometimes for some people, they find solace in the fact that they're there for everybody else because of the simple fact that they know that nobody was there for them. And they don't want anybody to go through that. But there's a burden with that comes with it. And because of that burden that nobody sees, you carry it. And then you carry everyone else's problems. And you carry everybody else's issues. And you're trying to, detangle the shit that's going on in your life, but you're also trying to detangle the shit that's going on in everyone else's life. And although you are applauded and you're thanked and, people will always say like, man, you're so strong. I'm glad to have you in your life. You always know that this wasn't something that you wanted to be. You never really wanted to be that. You saw an issue, you wanted to fix it. You knew that something was wrong and you wanted to adjust. You knew that you had been let down and you remember how bad that hurt and you wanted to ensure that nobody else felt that. But the thing is that deep down, you also want somebody to be there for you. When you come home at night and you have to, take off the weight of today, you want to be able to vent to somebody. But you know that if you vent to those loved ones, the same loved ones that been venting to you, you feel like either A, you're going to be incompetent, B, you're not going to be of use, or C, you're going to go ahead and stress them out. And you don't want that. So you always carry that weight on you. You never asked to be this. And people tell you and they applaud you all the time, man. Saying how strong you are. You will get through this. You've been through worse, but you're tired of going through worse. So with that, man, let's talk about just what it feels like when you have that mask constantly on. See, the problem when you constantly have this mask of strength on all the time is the fact that you don't know when it's actually slipping off. Let me rephrase that. The problem is when you constantly have this mask on all the time of strength, you know what I mean? Like when you constantly have this mask on of strength all the time, right? You have to be very cognizant that this mask does not slip off, especially on days where you've been through the ringer, especially on days where you've been stressed out, especially on days where you've been let down, especially on days where you got a lot on your fucking plate that you're trying to manage. You're trying to keep that mask on. And I bring that up, man, because I remember there was a time, and this is when I decided that it was time for me to also get help. And for those who don't know, I've actually went to therapy, you know what I mean? And the reason why I had to go to therapy is simply because I needed to talk to somebody that wasn't within my immediate circle. You know what I mean? I needed to feel safe as I talked to somebody. But the problem with that is that I remember I was at work one day, and I think had to been around 2019, 2020. And I thought I had gotten there early. You know what I mean? I've always been known to get to places early. And I got there, I had been sitting in the parking lot. And as I was sitting in the parking lot, I had looked around and saw that there was nobody there. And I just fell apart. You know what I mean? I kind of just fell apart. I was already dealing with a lot of bullshit that had happened the week prior to that. I had been dealing with some shit in my personal life, and I just wasn't really in a good mental space. But I also knew that I had Marines that I had to deal with. I had family I had to deal with. I had other shit that I still had to deal with. So in that moment of solace, I just put my head on my steering wheel, man. And I really just started to talk to myself, and I was trying to get myself together. I was telling myself, hey, this is going to be okay. You're good. You just gotta fucking do it. Mind you, I think that I'm alone. All right. I think that I'm alone. Fast forward, I have a Marine, and I asked the Marine, I said, dog, why aren't you going to stay in, bro? You're actually really good at this. Bro, why don't you just stay in? And he looked at me. And I'll never forget this, but he looked at me and he said, man, I remember one time I drove in early in the morning and I saw you in the parking lot and you just had your head on your steering wheel. And I can tell, dude, you were just going through it. You were just going through it. And I knew that I didn't want that for myself. And that's why I'm getting out. And I remember him saying that, and I just sat to myself and I was just like, damn, dog, fuck. You know what I mean? Fuck. And I bring that up because I just needed to release, and I didn't know that people would see me. You know what I mean? And luckily, I had the ability to be away. Only one person saw me. You know what I mean? Luckily, only one person saw me. for a lot of people, they don't have that luxury. They actually end up blowing up in front of everybody. They've been compounding that shit for so long that some small inconvenience finally set them off. They finally couldn't keep the mask on, you know? They end up saying things, doing things that they can't really come back from. Too many people have seen it. They said some things that they weren't supposed to say. You know, so I always sat back with that. And that was something that told me that I needed to get help. Prior to that, I was honestly just doing what any other typical Marine usually does. You know, I would go home and I would drink my problems. I would sit away from everybody, you know, and one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that when you're the strong person within your life, you feel a certain level of isolation. And I'll say that again. But when you're that strong person within your life, like when you're that strong person within other people's life, you feel a certain level of isolation from them. You can't be vulnerable with them, but they can be vulnerable with you. You know what I mean? You can't tell them your problems, but they can tell you their problems. You can't open up to them, but they can open up to you. And you start to feel this level of isolation where it feels like I really can't talk to anybody. And although they may say like, hey man, hey brother, you know, I'm there if you need me. No, the fuck you're not. No, you're not, bro. Like, I literally talked to you about some shit that was going on in your life. Like, dude, like, you're one fucking bad news away from having a mental breakdown. You can't handle what the fuck's going on in my life. Somebody calls you, hey, man, if you ever need to talk, you know, just give me a call. I can't talk to you. Not only will you not be able to handle what the fuck's going on in my life, but I don't even think that you can handle what's going on in yours. So just go ahead, tell me your problems. I'll give you the advice and we can continue to move on. I'll manage this shit on my own. A lot of strong people, and it's sad to say, they deal with their problems by themselves. And they find ways to be able to cope with those problems. So when that Marine saw me in that parking lot, he saw me trying to cope with what was going on. And he realized immediately that that was not what the fuck he wanted in his life. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Because for those who don't know, man, like we think that we're this shining example of what it's supposed to be. But you do your Marines a disservice when you also don't show them where your outlet's at. Where are you releasing at? How can I be so fucking strong and continue to keep going? You don't do them a service when you don't show them where you can release, bro. And that was one thing that I had failed as a leader. I was great at being strong. I was great at that. But I never showed my Marines what it was to release. I was great at being a good dad. I was great, man. Like I was great at being that tough dad that was always hard. But I never showed my son where I released and how I was able to continue to do that. So now that we talked about the weight of it, we talked about what it was like to have the mask on, let's talk about some real practical ways to actually continue to be that strong friend, but also find ways to release as well. All right, so now that we're going to talk about how to break the cycle, man, you also got to understand that you got to allow your support system to actually support you. And I'll say that again because I don't know who the fuck needs to hear this, but you got to allow your support system to just support you. A lot of y'all, man, have a support system that is just for fucking show, bro. Like, meaning that this support system actually does not fucking support you. You support them. You just are happy to say that you have people within your life that can handle the surface level problems, you know? And I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all because you don't want to unload your problems onto them because you recognize that they also have other shit going on in their lives. But I will say this. A lot of y'all actually have people within your lives that want to be there for you. I'll say that again. A lot of y'all have people in your lives that actually want to be there for you. It breaks their heart that they actually can't be there for you. That you're so standoffish, that you're so closed off, that you're so vague that you choose to deal with it. They want to help you. And they don't know exactly how to help you because you don't talk to them. So I will say this. Allow your support system to actually support you. Now, if you feel like you cannot open up to them, you know what I mean? Then you need to also have a outside support system. And I always call this like more so a vulnerability system. And what I mean by that is if you have a spouse that depends on you, then talk to your friends about the shit that's going on in your life. If you have friends that depend on you, then you need to talk to a therapist. Talk to somebody that's not within your immediate circle of friends, or that's in your immediate circle within your life. You know what I mean? That if you're constantly afraid of the fact that if I open up, man, like this person probably cannot handle what's going on, then you need to step outside of that. You know, I put it in the very beginning of the episode, and I put it in the show notes, man. Like, BetterHelp will definitely help you with that situation. Now, that's not a shameless plug. That's just, I use it. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I could not talk to people within my life, so I used a therapist, you know? I felt like at the time that I couldn't talk to loved ones, so I created other people within my life that I could talk to, you know? But I say that because you're going to have to talk to somebody at some point in your life. I will also tell you, man, and I don't know who need to hear this, but find ways that you can release. You know, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's playing video games, whether that's developing a hobby, whether that's going to the mat room and rolling around, or getting in the ring and doing boxing, or just going for a fucking run, man, clearing your mind. But you have to find healthy outlets. And I cannot stress that enough. Healthy fucking outlets. You can't just drink a lot of these problems away. All right. I've seen a lot of good people, man. I've seen a lot of good people go down because they drank their problems away. They handled them in the ways of, you know, that weren't just, they were very negative. You know, I can't stress this enough, man. Like, you have to find an outlet. But most importantly, man, like, you have to find some place where you don't have to be strong, where you can be vulnerable, where you can just be you. I bring that up, man, because I know for a fact that there's somebody right now that's listening that is the fucking strong one. Now, although that's a skill, that certain level of resiliency is a skill. That certain level of mental toughness, that's a fucking skill that a lot of people ain't fucking got. But it's not a skill for you to be turned on all the time. It's not a skill that was supposed to be turned on all the time. I would tell you right now, and I don't know who needs to hear this. I know you didn't ask to be strong. You asked for guidance. You asked for mentorship. You asked for wisdom. You asked for love. You asked for help, and you got fucking played. You got betrayed. You got let down. You got pushed to the wayside, and you realized that you didn't want that shit for somebody else. And I understand that pain that you went through. But at some point, you got to take that mask off before it slips off. And you got to be vulnerable in a space where you can be vulnerable before you're vulnerable in a place where you weren't supposed to be. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to head on over to your favorite streaming platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Also, don't forget to head on over to TikTok or Instagram and follow me at Meech Speaks. That's right, Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Stay motivated, stay healthy. I'm out.